Hello, and welcome to One Week Only. I'm Conor, and this is a report from the Slamdance Film Festival. One of the films I was most excited this year, out of both Slamdance and Sundance, was the documentary Animation Outlaws, which looks into the incredible story of Spike and Mike's Festival of Animation, which, if you don't know them, you definitely know what they did, because they are a festival going back to 1970s that promoted the best and brightest of independent animation. They are kind of indirectly or directly responsible for highlighting the early films of Nick Park, Tim Burton, Andrew Stanton, Pete Docter, Don Hertzfeldt, so many incredible people throughout the animation community. Whenever they made their first early short films, Spike and Mike's was one of the earliest promoters of these kind of movies. They put on these roadshow festivals, went around the country, around the world, programming these festivals, giving them a platform, and building awareness. And I'm so thrilled now there's a documentary that tells the story about how it came together and what this festival meant. Because, as it explains in the documentary, back in the 70s, if you weren't Disney or Hanna-Barbera, that was the only kind of options for animation back then. But here was a group of these two guys, Spike and Mike, who were former rock and roll promoters, who had figured people love animation, they love animated shorts. There are options. There are available short films, and people will like to see them. Let's put on a show, and they've been doing it. Now that Mike has passed away, Spike is still doing it to this day. And I think it's a great story, and I'm very happy that Kat Alioshin has made a documentary now. And I'm happy that Spike is still around and be part of it. And there's so many great interviews in the film with all those filmmakers. Also, Will Yankovic's in the film. It's an incredible story because everyone's clearly wants to tell the story and want to be part of the documentary because it needs to be told. It's an incredibly important chapter in independent animation. So I was absolutely thrilled to sit down with Kat and Spike at Slamdance Film Festival this year. So here's my interview with the filmmakers and star of the documentary Animation Outlaws.
I'm Kat Alioshin, producer and director and Spike Wrangler.
Nice to meet you. I'm Craig Spike Decker from Spike and Mike Animation.
Well, it's a real honor to have you guys here because Spike and Mike Animation is a legendary presence in the animation world, and I'm so happy that there's a documentary now about the famous festival. So I wanted to ask Kat, what was your first experience with Spike and Mike? Did you go to one of their shows back in the day, or what was your first impression of them?
Well, I just want to back up a little bit when you said the documentary. Like in my head, I hear him saying, "It's about damn time." So I did work with Spike and Mike back in, I would say, '87 or so. I was they used to call them flyer boys if you're a girl or a boy. But basically, we'd just be handed stacks of flyers and go crazy at wrestling matches, concerts, any other lines of sold out music shows, wherever, and just flyer the heck. And that's their promotion. I learned a lot about promotion from them. And then I turned into sort of the box office chick who was there to take all the money in, cash only. And
You said chick.
I know. But so, yeah, I've known them for a long time, knew Spike for a long time. And I just got in touch with him a couple years ago. And that same sentiment of it's about damn time that someone did a doc about their whole program, the festival, the contribution to animation history, finding a lot of these artists and encouraging them by paying for their projects.
And you yourself also worked in animation. You were on Night Before Christmas, many other great animated films. So were you always interested in animation, or was Spike and Mike your first introduction to animation?
Absolutely interested in animation, but certainly the catalyst was seeing day in, day out, all these sold out shows. I got to watch them as well. So I was exposed to so much animation, and part of their big thing that they did was bring in animators to talk to the audience and to sign posters. And so I got to meet all these artists. Marv Newland, I was so excited. Danny Antonucci, Bill Plimpton. They're right there. And so a little bit starstruck, but certainly the Spike and Mike encouraged my career choice at stop motion animation for sure.
Now, Spike, when you guys first started the festival back in the 70s, I love the documentary goes into, it was sort of like punk rock. It was underground. It wasn't, in some ways it predates Sundance and Slam and all the kind of these indie festivals. It was really revolutionary in that sense. When you were doing it, did you see yourselves breaking new ground, or was it just you were just doing what you could to get these films out there?
At first, we were just doing it to just to survive. I mean, I go back to my quote from Jerry Beck, great animation historian. Spike and Mike came from nowhere with nothing and created a market where none existed. So we're just these two kind of hippie guys in Riverside, and we're looking, I have no formal education whatsoever, not even high school, nothing. And so we're looking, here's an opportunity. And I was in a band because I have a deep voice, and I did bass vocals in the band. And so we would show the Max Fleischer shorts behind the band on the screen, Betty Boop, Superman, Popeye, stuff like that. Band broke up. And so we opened Mellow Manor, which was a like Animal House type thing, and I was renting out rooms, and Mike showed up, and I was Spike from the band. It was my stage name. He happened to be Mike, and a crazy guy. And we worked together well, and so we took the shorts and tried them at Riverside City College first as putting together 16 millimeter 90-minute theatrical show, and promoted the hell out of it. And so it's kind of evolved that way, and then we started learning more about animation. We didn't really know much about it at all. And we started educating ourselves, and then we fought with the stigma of people of like, well, what is it? Just cartoons like Bugs Bunny? And so we'd have to explain to them, no, this is an animation art form. We have films that have taken 3 years to make a 10-minute film. Is Academy Award-winning films. It's a true art form. And so that's sort of, there's a lot more, but that's a too long of answer.
No, and also what's fascinating is the fact that you guys also predated home videos. This was often the only way to see these films. How was it to kind of your festival goes through so many different generations, goes through the 70s, kind of the college campuses, and in the 80s with home video, and then now into the internet age. How has it been to watch the festival evolve over these different eras?
We started with 16 millimeter. Everything was 16 millimeter, and then we went to 35, and so we started. I mean, the other thing, I guess, you got to really go back to who we were, just these two guys with nothing. So, I mean, on the first show I ever did, I borrowed $1,000 from a guy who'd been in a motorcycle wreck and lost his friggin' leg and got insurance. So it's that kind of thing. So it just evolved from desperately doing shows, trying to make some money, and then eventually knowing, I don't know if it's a knack that I have or I learned to see values in something. Somebody pointed out to me, I never thought about it this way, but my brother, my parents were all collectors of like sports cards and pottery and art and different things. So I learned to see a value in something, and I think I applied that to the films, because I can go through films, 1,000 films, and sift it down to 2 that are really great. And so that's how then it became curation and just putting together a 90-minute show.
Now, Kat, when you started working on this documentary, I know Jerry Beck has the book about the festival, Animation Outlaws, but how much research did you have to do to get into the story and going back, finding archival footage or photos? What was that process of like building this documentary?
It was really important for me to find as much archival photos as I could. Very, very difficult to get any video. People weren't shooting back then, and so really, really one of the hardest things was getting Mike on stage, which I wasn't that successful at, but I did get some Mike, which is good. So anyway, just contacting any, because of my involvement in animation, I had these connections. So a lot of the interviews were granted to me because of my connection. David Fine, it was amazing, one of my main contributors to the videos. He took video everywhere you guys went, Annecy, Vancouver. So most of the video is from David Fine, thank you. And Spike gave me a lot of the photos. So, but it was hard to go back and try to find some video footage. The getting films was just great. 65 clips are in this documentary, and so you can see a lot of nostalgic films, and variations of some people just granting me those films, which is amazing, and giving them to me, or other I'm having to pay for, or some are fair use. So it's a big mix of different ways of getting that footage.
And the filmmakers, you have so many great filmmakers interviewing the movie. You have Mike Judge, you have Pete Docter, people from Pixar and whatnot, and Cartoon Network. Were they all excited to be part of the film? when you
Absolutely,
shot?
no one said no.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that's my favorite sort of line, is just I calling up people up. Of course, we want to be in it. Yes, yeah, I want to do it. Let's go. So that was great. Weird Al was a fun one too, and he goes way back with those guys. So, but even like Seth Green was just a chance meeting up at Skywalker Ranch, and Spike was there, and Spike says, "Hey, there's a documentary. You want to do it?" He's like, "Of course." Gives him a big hug, like around your waist, because he's kind of small. But anyway, so this getting people it's great. No one said no. I mean, some people didn't answer my emails, but in that case, that's different. But everyone was very excited.
Spike, looking back now on this festival, which has been over 40 years old, did you ever think that it would still be alive today when you started it? That it would still be going and still be talked about in as a piece of film history when you first started it? Looking back over these 40 years.
At first, no. And to answer, it goes back to your earlier question. No, when we first started, we just saw it as like, can we pull this off? We were scared. We didn't know what we were doing. 16 millimeter projectors would break, all the stuff. It was so hard to do independently. And we also had this thing, Mike and I made a pact of we wouldn't play movie theaters because they wouldn't pay you, because we didn't have the clout like a major studio to hold your next film hostage, so these sons of bitches would hold your money. So we'd go and rent a four-wall or so we never played even traditional theaters for that reason for many years, just again to survive. But it wasn't till later, till I started seeing us being successful and going in cold to a city like San Francisco and being the event at the Palace of Fine Arts or the Castro for that weekend, and outgrossing a feature film, or having 18,000 people come and doing it on our own independently. It wasn't till that I started seeing that the impact we've made. And so, no, it doesn't surprise me. If anything, not to be too negative, but I regret that we are still very much on the outside looking in. And the truth is that have we not done what we did and had the insights and stepped up and believed in a lot of open doors for a lot of people, there's a lot of damn things that wouldn't exist. And I'll have that debate with anybody, anytime, any place.
Is there a filmmaker or film you're especially proud of that you brought to light or brought attention to that you looking back over all the years?
Well, in the original show, I liked the fact that we became more aware of the films, especially the European films, are just masterpieces. Films of Russia, Czechoslovakia, Germany, England, and the art form of it, and great animators like Paul Driesen, the great Dutch animator, and people like Bruno Bozzettos from Allegro Non Troppo, brilliant masterpieces. And what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry. I'm tired.
You're proud of. Any filmmaker perhaps that has maybe taken off that you feel?
Yeah, that's in the original show. In the Sick and Twisted, I would say, I don't know. I'm proud that we did a show with Tim Burton in La Jolla and had him there with the film Vincent.
Oh, wow.
Before he was doing features. And last time I saw him at Annecy, he remembered that, which was cool, and thanked us for it. That was always really cool. And that's a grand film. And beyond any particular short in Sick and Twisted, I'm just glad we came up with the concept. We were at Wheeler Auditorium, UC Berkeley, and we're showing these films we couldn't normally show in the original show due to the content and age. And it was an older college crowd, and they're all loaded, and at midnight, late night. And I said, "Do you guys want to see something we don't normally show?" And they went nuts. And I said, great. Let's show you Lupo the Butcher, all these great films. And Mike Grimshaw, just really sick films. They went nuts. And so we did it again next Saturday, sold out shows at Wheeler. They went nuts again. So I'm walking across UC Berkeley campus with Mike and Sproul Gate, and I said, Mike, we have a concept. Now we have to come up with the brand. And boom, 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 that's what we did. And so that's how we had to make films, because anywhere in the world there wasn't enough films. That's why we produced the first two Beavis and Buttheads and so many films. Home Honey, I'm High, and so many films, because we truly didn't have enough content anywhere in the world to build a 90-minute Sick and Twisted show.
I also love with the documentary you have some animated sequences in the film of young Spike and Mike. How did those come about, and who animated them?
Big fan of stop motion, as you know, so I just knew I had to include that. But it's also it's chronological. I try to do like 2D animation style, stop motion, and then it was kind of computer style. The fantastic animator was Tim Hiddle. He's up in the Bay Area, and he's also worked on Nightmare Before Christmas, James and Giant Peach. He comes out of the Gumby world in the Bay Area. But yeah, it's just in his garage. I mean, this is how you do these things. But yeah, I have the Spike puppet. I share that with anyone who wants to see it. I don't think Spike really loves the character design on that, but that's we'll see. But it's a cute little puppet. I've got a Scotty puppet, and always have to include stop motion. The title sequence is also animation. It's Hinge animation, cutouts of all the flyers over the years. So we just took flyers and cut them out, and Anthony Scott animated that.
Oh, that's great. What do you guys think of, we are now in the 21st century with the internet, with YouTube in some ways has kind of, or Vine or Vimeo, any of these online sites have taken the place of artists getting their work out there. Do you feel there's still a need for festivals and curated places, not just the internet?
Well, it comes down to, with us, with our shows, they became the festival, and then they became, a lot of it because Mike was brilliant on stage, they became a special event. And it's the gathering of people, and it's huge. It's on screen. It was 35 millimeter. It's a 20-foot screen, or like at Annecy, I remember out on the lawn, 5,000 kids, and they're all smoking ganja. And so the experience, or the Crest Theater in Sacramento, where there's a full bar, and they're crazy, and it's a party, and it's the vibe, and it's an experience you can't have on the internet. And it's like a concert. Well, it's like watching a concert. And my answer to sort of vicariously to Mike's performing on stage so well is, which when he died, I had to take that over. Not like he could. I can't do that. But my answer was, I had a Scottish Terrier, and he loved to shred stuff. And so I became Scotty the Shredding Wonder Dog, and he'd shred inflatables on stage. And like one night at the Palace in San Francisco, we had sold out shows, and he did like 50 balloons, and an inflatable sex doll, and giant beach balls, and giant exercise balls, and he did the whole thing. And I'm going like, my God, if he does this, and then it's a full theatrical stage, and I go, if he'll drag that off stage, and I'm on the side wing just going, just please. And sure enough, it wasn't trained or anything. He just looks over, and I go, oh, I'm dragging, and he drags it off stage. I'm going, boom, standing ovation. I go, that's entertainment.
What are your hopes with this documentary now that it's finished? Now it's coming to theaters. Do you hope the new generation coming up will kind of look back and appreciate what came before?
I actually am getting a little bit of that from people that have seen it. And I would really love to have people see it in a theater. What Spike just had said is so... the vibe of it, the entertainment, and if I could even travel with it and like get those balloons out in the audience and kind of get that entertainment style back to it. But the younger generation has seen it and has responded very well to it, saying, well, some of them are jealous that they didn't get to go to these shows, but it's inspiring to them. We're going to get some artists out of this, I think.
And does it feel appropriate to have the film here at Slamdance, which is all about that independent spirit, just like Spike and Mike?
Oh, it fits in. It's perfect. It's all about Slamdance.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here, and it's a true honor to have it.
I'll say one last thing.
Of course.
Oh, just one last thing on the point of putting the shows together. Even throughout doing this all these years, you always have some Johnny come lately come along and go, we can do this, or somebody, and they don't understand it's like putting together a great album or an LP or vinyl or I don't know, stories in a book. It's like the ability to build a great show and have a balance and a finale. It's like they don't understand that it takes, I mean, doing it at a million shows to see that, to understand, like an orchestra leader. So I just want to point that out because people just, oh, you just go get these films and put them together, this kind of thing. But to do that, because we always thought, coming from nothing, the fact that people were making a living and they're paying their $8 or $10 was really relevant to us. Like, we owe these people. And, this guy drove here and he gave $10 of his money. And we delivered. We gave them more of their money's back. We gave them entertainment, and we gave them the best films. Whether it's the original show, that's the quality, the best in the world, and the humor is a criteria. So that's been, I just throw that in as ingredients to bake that cake, because people just think you just go put this together and there you go.
No, 100% true. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Colin.
So that's my interview with the director and star of Animation Outlaws about Spike and Mike's Festival Animation. It was a real treat to talk to them. It's such an important chapter in U.S. animation history, and I can't wait for this to get more exposure and to get out there. So hopefully, younger generations who, like I didn't get to see their shows when they kind of are before my time, but I'm definitely aware of them. I've seen the films they played, and I'm so happy that they lifted the careers of the Pixar animators and the Aardman animators and got them off on their feet. And now I love their films today. And it's thanks to people like Spike and Mike that they got that career jumpstart. So I'm so happy this documentary exists, and I can't wait for people to see it around the world. But that's all we have this episode of 1 Week Only, this report from Slamdance. But as always, we have lots of other things from Slam at Sundance this year. I've been doing other interviews with filmmakers, and Carlos has been reviewing films for The Wrap and Hermescla. So we've been sharing this on our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram pages. Be sure to check them out. And follow us, give us a like or a share, retweet. We'd love to hear from you. And find all our episodes on iTunes and SoundCloud. But until next time, I'm Connor. Thank you for listening.